Brett Waltemath of Star Watch Media here with the president of the UFC, Dana White. Dana, we're here at the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado for UFC 135. John Jones is making his first title defense at light heavyweight against Rampage Jackson. I believe you said earlier that 5-1 odds currently against Rampage. Why do you think he's being so underestimated in this fight?
I think it's because of the way he's handled fights in the past. Starting from The Ultimate Fighter when he did the movie instead. Sometimes people have accused him of not being in shape and coming into fights unprepared. Well, that's definitely not the case. I mean, before you make the line, you should do your homework. The guy has been living here in Denver for months and has acclimated here, has been training hard, hates John Jones, is taking this fight very serious.
He's made it well publicized that he's felt very disrespected by John Jones. Do you feel that that's warranted? Have you noticed anything that John Jones has said or done that you feel Rampage has a right to be offended about?
Listen, they're going to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to fight and they don't like each other. So when you don't like somebody, you're going to say things about them that he might not like. It is what it is. It's a good thing for Rampage because I think it's the type of stuff he needs for motivation. He hates John Jones. He's taken his fight very serious and gotten in great shape. So no matter who said what, they're going to fight. So it is what it is.
They both appeared on Jimmy Kimmel a few days ago. What was your impression of the show?
I thought they did great. Both guys are smart. Both guys are entertaining, funny, and I loved it.
And yeah, Dr. Phil there is the mediator as well.
Which was perfect. It's funny because he's actually a great guy. Yeah. Dr. Phil's a great guy, and he's a big fan. His son is like a diehard UFC fan.
Now, let's talk about Matt Hughes for a second. He's in a very interesting situation, this being the last fight on his contract. What does he need to do? And he almost appears unsure of whether or not he's going to continue, win or lose. What's kind of your impression of the whole situation with that?
Yeah, that's Matt Hughes, though. He's always been that way. And this isn't the first time he's come to the last fight on the end of his contract. I can tell you this. If he wins on Saturday night, Matt Hughes will fight again.
Yet he says that he will not go on a 5 to 7 fight contract. So is he kind of playing it one fight at a time? Does he really want to go for another title shot?
If he wins Saturday night, he'll sign a new UFC contract, and he will continue to fight.
Motivation will be there?
Yes.
The premiere of Ultimate Fighter Season 14 is this evening. This is the first Ultimate Fighter season where it is the bantamweights and the featherweights, and also the last Ultimate Fighter season that will be on Spike. What does that kind of mean for you, just the relationship you've had with Spike and just kind of the closing of a chapter, essentially?
Yeah, I've had a great relationship with those guys over the years that we've been on their network, and we've been negotiating this new TV deal for a long time, and unfortunately, we didn't end up on Spike, but no hard feelings, and I think everybody knows what a big deal this new Fox deal is, including Spike. Spike understands what a huge opportunity this is and what this really means. And I think that Spike should be very proud of the fact that, it all started there.
I need to get your opinion on the Mayweather-Ortiz fight. You're very verbal about Joe Cortez's officiating in the fight, that it was one of the worst officiated boxing matches you've ever seen. Yet Joe Cortez came out and said that Mayweather did nothing wrong in the fight. What was your main criticism of what Joe Cortez did not do?
That's the only thing I agree with Joe Cortez about is I agree Mayweather did nothing wrong. And I actually think for being Floyd handled himself very well. And Cortez, I mean, you couldn't blow a fight worse than he blew that fight. And what's scary about that, boxing only does 2 big fights a year. And that was a multi-million-dollar fight that he destroyed. Literally destroyed this whole fight. All the months of promotion and everything that goes into it, how hard both guys have worked. Had that fight gone on, I mean, you don't know what could happen. Anything can happen in a fight. Ortiz could have ended up clipping Floyd. Floyd could have knocked him out by devastating fashion without the controversy. Ortiz destroyed a multi-million-dollar fight. Referees are supposed to be, when referees are good, you don't even notice they're in there. You're focused on the fight. You don't even notice the ref is there. And again, HBO always points out, This is his 150th world title fight.
I believe he's closer to 200 title fights now that he's officiated.
You've been around for too many. Okay, you're too damn old to be officiating fights anymore. I want to hear about a guy who's got 9 world title fights. You know, a younger guy. Exactly. At 66 years old, it's questionable whether you should still be driving, let alone fucking getting in there with two 20-something-year-olds who are trying to knock each other's heads off. It's just one of these things that I have a huge problem with. That when the officiating, whether it's the judges or the ref, have such a huge impact on a fight, what they end up doing is destroying guys' legacy, how much money they're going to make in their next fight. You know, just so many things that these guys destroy that they shouldn't be. They're there to protect the fighters, to make sure that all the rules are followed, everything goes smooth, and it's not the case lately. You've got these guys destroying these fights and these fighters, and it needs to be fixed, man. It really needs to be fixed.
Does this almost just further enhance the image of the UFC and further diminish the impression people have of boxing?
It hurts all combat sports in general. You know, people think that, you know how many people thought that fight was fixed the other night and stuff like that? People start thinking fights are fixed. You know, and it's bad for the sport, for both sports, combat sports in general.
Now, even considering the bad officiating, it appeared that even the whole situation could have been avoided when you see Ortiz actually twice go over and hug Mayweather. You know, he embraced him once, kissed him on the cheek, and then they were broken up. Then he decides to hug them again, where normally if a fighter is apologetic, they just touch gloves and it's done.
After an intentional foul, especially the way that he fouled him, he shouldn't even be allowed to go near him. The ref gets right in there, breaks it up, sends him to a neutral corner till the fight starts again. And you're absolutely right. Then he calls them and says, all right, the fight's starting again. They can come out and they touch gloves. They don't have to hug and kiss and all that bullshit. You know, but Cortez let them just walk around and do whatever they wanted to do. He wasn't even paying attention, wasn't following the rules, didn't do things. You know, there's a protocol. When these things happen, he followed none of it. Did everything wrong. Not only that, the guy's done 200 world title fights, and he doesn't know that an intentional flagrant foul is 2 points, not 1. It's just, I mean, listen, I got nothing personal against the guy. I've met him once or twice. This guy has no business being in there anymore. And I keep seeing this problem with the athletic commissions, having guys in there that don't belong there.
It was even argued by Cortez, well, actually not by Cortez, but by various media outlets on whether or not he had actually called time in. Many people think that he never verbally said it. Cortez's defense was that he does not have to verbally say it, that as long as he signals it, that is time in, which has been very debated in the past few days.
It's ridiculous. He doesn't have to say it. All right, maybe he wouldn't have to say it if guys were in neutral corners. They were opposite each other, and he got in the middle and went like this, or come on, or, you know, something like that. Okay, maybe you didn't have to say it then. But when two guys are standing right in front of each other like this and hugging and shit, you don't have to say it? That right there shows you have no business being in this sport. You shouldn't be refereeing anything. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be refereeing a fucking chess match, let alone a fight.
What's your reaction to Mayweather's critics about what he did right after Ortiz embraced him?
I thought that Floyd conducted himself. Listen, this guy just headbutted you in the face like a fucking billy goat. It wasn't an accident, and he'd been doing it through the whole fight. Floyd doesn't want this guy hugging him and kissing him and shit. You just fucking headbutted me in the face. I got multi-million-dollar fights ahead of me and everything else. A headbutt is the dirtiest thing you can do in boxing. You could break his nose. You could cut him open over here. You could do damage to his eye. You could break his orbital bone. You could give him a concussion. You could knock him out with a headbutt. It's the dirtiest thing you can do in boxing. The last thing I'm going to do is trust the guy who just fucking headbutted me in the face. Now I'm supposed to trust you and think that you're just going to hug me and say you're sorry? Who says you don't fucking headbutt me again in the face?
When you mentioned the physician not being called, which was interesting because he was cut. His lip did get cut, and yet he was not called. It wasn't like there was no damage to him.
Cortez couldn't have fucked this thing up any worse if he tried to. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. And the thing that drives me crazy about athletic commissions is this shit should be reviewed. And you should go back and make a... There's nothing wrong with saying we made a mistake. That's my biggest beef with the athletic commission, except for Pennsylvania. That's why I say Pennsylvania is the best commission in the country, by far. The number one commission in the country.
What are some other state athletic commissions that impress you?
Well, the ones that impress me are the ones that we leave and there's never any problems. Listen, people are going to make mistakes. There's nothing wrong. There's going to be human error in everything that we do in life. But it's almost like it's like the NFL. They go back and they review and they see what's wrong and they make the fair call. They make the fair call. You have to do the same thing in combat sports.
Really quick, I want to get your impression on just Larry Merchant's comment post-fight to Mayweather Jr. when he said, I believe if I was 50 years younger, I'd kick your ass. What was just your impression on that? And what do you think his reason was for just a comment that really I think a lot of people felt came out of left field?
He's a babbling, senile moron. I've been listening to this guy babble about stupid shit for years now. He's another one who has no business being in there. I think he embarrassed HBO on Saturday. And guess what, Larry? If you were 70 years younger, you're not kicking Floyd Mayweather's ass. And every time you step in there, all you do is belittle and berate the fighters. I mean, all the guy does is talk shit instead of going in there and asking questions. They need to get his senile, goofy ass out of there and put Max Kellerman in there, a guy who actually can go in and ask real questions and knows enough about boxing to interview guys.
And appears very passionate about the sport as well.
Yeah, Kellerman is the guy who belongs in there. HBO is what I've been saying about HBO forever, man. I mean, what's changed in HBO boxing over the last 35 years? HD. That's it. Yeah. Everything's exactly the same. They haven't changed their production. They haven't changed anything. It hasn't moved with the times whatsoever. And having a babbling senile moron like him in there, it's bad. It's bad for HBO.
Larry Merchant's comment, it almost appeared that it was more out of frustration and more out of he had to get the last word in.
He was embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. The guy should have been out of there 15 years ago. He has no business in there interviewing guys, you know? Another one. He's too fucking old to drive. You're too old to get up there and interview two young guys. You know, listen, those days are over, man. Get a guy in there, a young guy, shit what anybody says. Max Kellerman knows more about boxing and cares more about boxing than Larry Merchant does.
We'll do one last question. You just flew in from Los Angeles promoting UFC on Fox. Just a very rowdy crowd that was there. Just talk about the experience for that and just kind of the coming months before this huge fight where so much is really weighing on it as well.
Would you ask me?
Just about the press conference in Los Angeles, promoting UFC on Fox, and just what it means in these next coming months, just as we get closer to it.
It was awesome. It was an incredible experience. The fans were there. I always love when the fans get involved, and you know, it's pretty obvious what a big deal this is, and how we need to nail this first fight on Fox.
Dana, thank you so much for the time, and enjoy Saturday. Appreciate it.